Whether you have a diagnosis or not, I don't care. I'll teach you how to find what's causing your health concerns using the labs you already have. Your doctor might tell you your blood work is normal, but I'm here to teach you a better way. If you're a doctor or a health coach and anything in between, there's one for you too. Download your cheat guides and register here at drkylieburton.com. This podcast is sponsored by Systemic Formulas and Nutribiome. Systemic Formulas, the supplement company I trust with my patients and family. Instead of ordering from a handful of companies, I use 95% SF products. They're top-of-the-line quality with the best lab west of the Mississippi. They're pure, potent, and they get results. In fact, I recommend you follow their Instagram at Systemic Formulas Institute. Also, the man who's behind the Systemic Formulas products, Dr. Shane Morris, is launching a new line of supplements designed to take your microbiome to the next level. He has specific prebiotics designed to feed the probiotics. Learn more and order soon at mybiome.com. All right, let's jump into the episode. Welcome to the Beyond the Diagnosis podcast. We are in season 4 and over 100 episodes in. We are currently on any podcast platform as well as Legrity TV. So you're going to see us on Roku, Google TV, Amazon TV, Amazon Fire, I guess, and a whole bunch of other places. So we are going to have a conversation right here, right now with Devin Tomiak. Now, she has created these incredible cards that will help you, us moms, start hard conversations with our elementary aged kids. So, Devin, I'm so glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you even got this idea for these cards.
I'm so excited to be here, Dr. Kylie. Thank you for having me. So yes, my name is Devin Tomiak, and I like to call myself a suicide survivor turned youth resilience builder. 7 years ago, I lost my youngest brother to suicide very unexpectedly. He wasn't someone who you'd ever think would die in this way. You know, he had so much. He was loved, he was supported, successful. He had a gazillion friends, a close-knit family. He was passionate, witty, charming, all of it. And so when he died, I kind of experienced this like existential crisis. You know, before his death, I had a certain understanding of how the world worked, and then losing him upended that. Suddenly it was like, if this could happen to him, what was keeping it from happening to my other family members and dear friends, right? My trust in my own judgment, my trust in other people, my trust in the world had been undermined. So I ended up on this personal quest to understand. I was reading, I was researching, I was soul searching, I was listening to podcasts. I was doing anything that would help me make sense of what had happened. Now, all of this was kind of going down in the background of my life because day to day, I was momming. I had a 3-year-old son, and then I gave birth to my second son 4 months after losing my brother. And as anyone with young children knows, I was like completely in the fray, and these boys were my life. And so as I'm trying to make sense of all of my brother's death, it's all in the framework of my kids, and how do I prevent something like this from ever happening again? You know, obviously suicide is very complex, and there's certainly no one answer to why. But one thing my research and exploration led me to was the importance of resilience. And the reason why resilience jumped out at me is because it's teachable. Resilience is something we can work on actively to manage our own day-to-day mental health, as well as something we can build in our kids. So over the next few years, as my sons got older and I continued to learn more and more about resilience, I wanted to, pass my learning on to them. Of course, modeling resilience in our own lives for our kids is hugely important, but sometimes we don't always pull it off. You know, we make mistakes. It's the whole do as I say. Yeah, right. It's the whole do as I say, not as I do thing, right? So it occurred to me, if I could talk to my kids about some of these social emotional concepts that go into resilience, that was something. Of course, it had to be presented in the right way. And so ultimately, I got my dear friend and a 25-year veteran of child psychology on board, Dr. Amy Engelman, and we created the Biggies Conversation Cards, which build resilience in elementary aged kids.
When I saw you post this on Facebook one day, I was like, oh my gosh, as a mom in 2021, we need these now more than ever.
Right.
So
right.
The fact that you already had them, and then I'm going to help you spread the message. And I can't wait to learn more about myself, because I have a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old. And as we talked before this, they're a little bit too young, but when they get to that elementary age, which is the prime age for these type of things, which is right around the corner in my life, it's going to be here before we know it. To have some kind of guidelines, or even just examples of questions. I mean, when I pick my kids up from the babysitters, it's like, hey, bud, what did you do today? Is that really the best kind of question we should be asking them?
Right.
When there are so many other ones that are way better.
Yeah. And, conversation is kind of, in my opinion, the most powerful tool to connect with our children. It's like, the way we as humans connect with everyone, right? But especially with kids, with resilience, building resilience, having that at least one person in their lives that is providing unconditional love and support and is there no matter what, that is your biggest resilience building factor. And so, the earlier we get started, the better, I think, because when it comes to kids, as they get older, sometimes, well, for sure, the issues become more and more complicated. And when you set the groundwork at an early age, you're saying to your children, like, this is what we do. We talk and we're open and we listen. And sometimes we may disagree, and that's okay, but I'm still here for you. And so that's kind of where I was when I came up with the idea for this, is like, wait, I got to do something. I got to do something now, because it's just going to get harder. Like you said, the world is complicated. The world is messy.
If you're not teaching them, somebody else will. And chances are somebody else will be on social media teaching them, which
100%. Yes.
I remember, I just had this flashback. I remember seeing a commercial years ago where it's with a little girl who's wanting to ride her skates outside with her mom. And her mom has, every excuse that she needs to do the laundry and clean the house and, continue her work regimen or whatever it is. And the little girl says, Mom, when I'm 13 and my hormones are all crazy and I'm wacky and I don't want to talk to you anymore and blah, and she just goes off about how she would be when she's 13 if mom doesn't pay attention to her now and build that relationship with her now. Yes. And I think that's the concept that you're designing is, let's build a relationship with our kids when they're young and continue that through those teenage years into the young adult life and all throughout livelihood. Then we're going to start by having the conversations that you don't dare have, or you just don't know how to bring up. I mean, I'm 32 years old talking to a 4-year-old. I'm still working at it. And by the time he turns 6, I'm like, I finally have mastered the 4-year-old. Now I'm going to learn the 6-year-old.
Totally.
They get into 8, 9, 10, and that's where a big impact is made in their lives at that age.
And the reality is, like, we're busy and we're tired. And sometimes it's just easier to be like, go brush your teeth and get in bed. Or, maybe you're having these big conversations already, but sometimes it's nice to just have a little crutch. And that's kind of what these cards are. There's plenty of other conversation cards out there, but my unique take on this was, one, I wanted to like hold a parent's hand. And it's not for parents that don't know how to talk to their children. It's for parents who do know how to talk to their children. They just want an extra little tool. And I just wanted to make it easy and fun. And so, each card has something to draw a kid in, because kids are, they're curious little creatures. And I think if you can appeal to their curiosity, they become more receptive to some of these messages you want to teach them. So there's fun facts, there's quotes from kids' movies, and history, science, all those kind of things that will make a kid stop and be like, that's kind of cool. And just pave the way to talking about some serious matters that you may want to address.
Do you have any examples off the top of your head of what we might find on one of those cards?
Sure. So, gosh, you know what? I have the cards right here.
Yeah, show us. This is a video.
Okay, yeah. And well, they're not really in any order, but they come packaged. I should have had this prepared in advance, Kylie, but
don't worry about it. We're all busy.
Yeah.
We're busy, mamas.
Okay, so they come packaged in this cute little wooden box.
Oh, that is way cute.
And there's 25 cards, and they're divided into 5 sections: body, mind, spirit, heart, and world. So let me find one here. All right, so this card is about the present and focusing on the present. So it gives an example of, it starts with a question to kind of get your kid engaged, and then it gives an example. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wim Hof, but he's this really interesting guy who has set all sorts of world records for enduring cold. And so it gives...
Why?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But so this exercise is kind of, it encourages you to hold an ice cube, or the kid to hold an ice cube and see how long you can be in the present moment. And just talks about, focusing on your body and how that helps you stay present. And the back has other kind of questions to get you to pay attention to your 5 senses, and, what happens when you're not in the moment, if you're worrying about the future, or you kind of thinking about the past, and talks about how do you become present, and gives different ways that different people use to become present. That might be kind of noticing the little joys, or asking themselves questions about how they are, am I tired? Am I hungry? All those types of things. And it gives a definition. So that's an example. So they're big.
Yeah, I look at that. I'm like, when you say a card, I'm thinking like a 9x13 card, or not even 9x13. What is that? 3x5?
Like a
3x5 card, right? Or a playing card. That's like a full-on 8x11 piece of paper.
Well, it's 6 inches by 8 inches. And the reason it's so big is because they have illustrations and they have multiple questions, because, certain questions will resonate with certain groups, and maybe you want to leave something out. And there's also a lot of examples, because I think that makes it easier for the adult, right? Sometimes you want to explain something to your child and you just need to use an example. And so it was like, well, what example do I use? So you can obviously use your own, but we've got them here too.
Yeah, that looks cool. Walk me through another one.
Okay, let me see. So that one is in the spirit category. Let me do... This one is called belonging. So that the subject is on the back, and then on the front, it says, how do you become the best athlete? And this gives an example of how in the past, the US gymnastics team trained for the Olympics, that each gymnast trained individually, alone, without the team. And how starting in 1996, they started training as a group. And how that's when they started winning all sorts of, they finally won the team gold medal in 1996 for the first time ever. It took 60 years for these gymnasts to win it. And it's because
now they've dominated ever since.
Right. But it's talking about the power of, feeling that sense of belonging and being part of a group. And so it, asks, and another point I want to make is that the questions are meant to be answered by everyone, not just the kids. Cause I think when you grill kids, that's when they sometimes shrink back. So it's oftentimes when they hear their adults kind of talking about their history, their experiences, they open up more, cause that's fun, right? Don't your kids, your kid, your oldest.
Yeah. Just having it's a conversation. It's not, you're not grilling them and asking them all these questions and putting them on the spot. It's a back and forth conversation.
And so that was a little tangential, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But so, yeah. And then on the back, it talks about belonging and how we humans are kind of happier, healthier and more successful when we belong to groups, and what that means, and ask kids to think about when they felt like they haven't belonged, and how they are when they kind of are in groups. And so each card has a did you know section, an I wonder section, and then a what's your take section, which kind of gives two viewpoints on a question and asks the kid, like, which one do you feel, or maybe you feel both, right? So
yeah, I grew up in a sports family. We're sportsaholics.
Okay.
I played volleyball in college. My brothers all run track and field. I had one brother who actually just competed at the Olympic trials.
Oh, wow.
We're athletes. Well, one of my favorite things about sports is the teamwork, the team aspect involved. Now, when I say track, and everyone's like, no, track is an individual sport. They're racing against themselves on their own clock. In high school, though, my brothers had one of the best high school track and field coaches in the state. And he made it a big deal to win that state championship. But you don't win that state championship as an individual. You can, there are individual modalities, but it was a big part of his coaching was that we are a team and we do this together. And he took a brand new school, and within, I think it was 3 years later, they had their first state title as a boys track and field team. Whereas I was on a volleyball team where, you can only touch the ball one time. It has to go through at least two other people, if not three other people, every single time the ball is on your side of the net. So you are really dependent on everybody else in your team. I'm a big baseball fan. The World Series ended last night. I'm a huge Braves fan, so it ended great for me because they won. But on the baseball field, you have 9 batters, and every single person has to bat, and every single person has to play out in the field. You are dependent upon each other. Team aspect.
Yeah, and I think sports, for that reason, are such a good way to learn about that kind of that fact of life, which is that we need other people, and that's okay. That's good. It helps, others help us thrive. They make us become our best selves.
And if we flip the idea of the team aspect and we say our families are a team, we are a team getting through life together. And if we look at it from that perspective, one, is it going to change the way we interact with our teammates, our family members? And 2, is it going to change the conversations and the relationships that we build at every single stage along the way?
Right.
Pretty cool.
And something that I think is important is just like that we talk about our need for others and that need to feel like that sense of belonging with our kids, because I think we have such an independent minded society, and it's all about pull it up from the bootstraps and take care of business and get things done, and we often feel less inclined to rely on others. We don't, we move away from our family. That's just kind of the norm these days. Or kids go away to school. This is how things are, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's also, I think, needs to be counterbalanced with the understanding that, hey, in order to be my best self, like, I need other people, I need connections, I need to go out of my way to sustain my relationships that bring meaning to my life. That's a thing. Like, it's not something we should forsake. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. You and I, as mothers, could talk about this all the time. Your kids are now older, and I'm sure you're using these cards in-house So give me an example of what you see has changed in your boys since adding these into your team life.
Okay. Well, I'll tell one funny story that just pops in my head immediately. And that's, so my oldest son, he'll be 10 in a couple weeks. And poor guy, like he was, we tested these with a lot of families, but he was like my go-to when we were creating these cards. He was just like, hey, Jack, does this make sense? Or do you get this? And so he kind of knows these cards backward and forward. And he loves paper airplanes. That was a phase for a while. And one day he had made this paper airplane and he threw it across our living room and it kind of hit the wall and grazed the wall and kept going. And he looks at me and he goes, perseverance. And I was like, yes, that is a perseverant airplane, like it kind of could have fallen, but it kept going. But, I think it's just creating a self-awareness in your kids, having them understand some of these words, empathy, perseverance, so that they are accustomed to them, making this stuff just like household topics, right? And we're far from being like the perfect family. We have plenty of issues. My kids struggle just like every other kid out there. So I don't think that these are going to solve anything, right? We need therapists. We need counselors at school. We need social emotional curriculum, all these things. But I feel like it just I feel like my kids do think they can talk to me about anything. And so that
right there is gold.
Yes.
I think about, this is an issue that we might not want to get into, but pornography. Mm-hmm. And I think about anybody who I know who's been experienced with it or addicted to it on some levels, at some level, you can trace back to their relationship with their parents. And you can see, were they open? Did they feel like as a 14-year-old boy, they could run and talk to mom and dad about anything? Mm. Or were they closed off and that's how they were relieving their stress?
That's interesting.
So, different aspect to look at it, but big impact. From a clientele perspective, what have you seen in family, friends, clients who are using these cards? What have you heard from other mamas?
When we design the cards, we design them for families, with families in mind. And since launching them, interestingly enough, a lot of teachers have found them really useful. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I found, is that they're actually really good for the classroom, because I think teachers are first of all, they're so amazing. Second of all, they have a lot to get through in a day. And, these cards make it easy because you can pick your topic, what you want to talk about, and you got everything right there in front of you. It's not, you can make it as long as you want or as short as you want. So that's one thing that we've heard. As far as with families, I think, just like everything, you got to come at it at the right moment. Everyone has to be up for sharing. You got to be in the mood. If you accost your child with questions, no matter what they are, first thing when they walk in the door from school, they might not be ready to roll with it. So I think that's something we've seen and heard, but otherwise we've gotten great feedback, and I think people have found great use for them.
Now that you say that, I was just thinking maybe as moms, we do something like, let's look over a card in the morning and then just watch as the day goes by and have those moments arise. And you have that card in the back of your mind. Hey, I can use this now. And it's not necessarily like, hey, I'm pulling out the card and we're going to go through this at this time every single day. It's, I'm going to put this in my mind so when I'm ready for it and when I see the moment, it's there and I can just start a conversation.
Yeah. And people have, like, I have a friend who, she was telling me the other day, she's like, yeah, we were, my son was having this issue at school. And so I pulled out the kindness card or whatever it is. And so they can be used as a reaction to something in your day or in your life, or they can be kind of used in a way of more preemptively, I'd say, just talking about things that are going to certainly arise.
I like that. All right, Devin, as we're closing up here, Where can we find these cards?
So the website is thebiggiescards.com. And I'm also on social media at Biggies Cards.
Instagram, TikTok,
Instagram, and Facebook.
Instagram and Facebook. Okay, cool. The biggiescards.com is the website to check it out. Check those out. It's Christmas coming up soon. I know you guys won't hear this till after Christmas, but I'll go check them out myself, see what kind of Christmas presents I can come up with. So here's the URL, TheBiggiesCards.com, and that'll also be in the show notes. So thank you, Devin, for sharing that with us. And I'm really glad that this tool was created to help us mamas have conversations with our kiddos.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kylie. This has been really fun.
Whether you have a diagnosis or not, I don't care. I'll teach you how to find what's causing your health concerns using the labs you already have. Your doctor might tell you your blood work is normal, but I'm here to teach you a better way. If you're a doctor or a health coach and anything in between, there's one for you too. Download your cheat guides and register here at drkylieburton.com. This podcast is sponsored by Systemic Formulas and Nutribiome. Systemic Formulas, the supplement company I trust with my patients and family. Instead of ordering from a handful of companies, I use 95% SF products. They're top-of-the-line quality with the best lab west of the Mississippi. They're pure, potent, and they get results. In fact, I recommend you follow their Instagram at Systemic Formulas Institute. Also, the man who's behind the Systemic Formulas products, Dr. Shane Morris, is launching a new line of supplements designed to take your microbiome to the next level. He has specific prebiotics designed to feed the probiotics. Learn more and order soon at mybiome.com. mybyome.com.